we can try to get started.
Okay.
There, I'll be loud.
Not that we haven't been socially isolating in a pandemic, we miss everybody.
Okay.
People!
Yeah.
We can back up the story in between.
Orlando.
How's everybody doing?
In between what? Oh, yep, okay. Thank you.
Right.
Yep. All right, everybody, good evening and welcome to our planning meeting for this evening. I will start off with 2.01, which is our President's Report. Tonight, we are honored to be joined by one of the newest Ritenour High School graduates, Destiny Green. Destiny completed her requirements for graduation recently and is now officially a Ritenour High School graduate. We applaud Destiny for her grit, hard work, and dedication in earning her high school diploma. I'd like to invite Destiny to come up and join us at the front.
There. Yep,
Right up there. Chris, up.
Well, Destiny, thank you for being here with us this evening, and board members, thanks to Tavonda Palmer. Tavonda Palmer, our graduation coach, is here with us tonight. After Destiny tells us a bit about her story, would like to talk a little bit about the work that's going on at the high school with the graduation coach work. Destiny?
Hello. I guess I just want to start by saying I was driven to come back and graduate because, you know, through high school I had a lot going on or whatever. Summer of my freshman year, my dad passed away, so, you know, my drive kind of slacked for, 2 years, but then I came back my senior year working really hard. However, I went through a lot of things senior year and I stopped coming to school like the last 3 months. So if you couldn't tell, I'm expecting now. So I definitely wanted to set a better example for my little one, and that definitely gave me a lot of motivation to finish.
Well, Destiny, thank you for being here. So, board members, Destiny was within 1 credit of graduation, and I know Destiny's story personally, and I saw the work that Ms. Palmer did to support Destiny firsthand. Destiny, you were working at a QT, and Ms. Palmer and I came by to pay a visit to check in on you to try to get you back in so you could finish up that 1 credit. And so I bring that up just to reinforce the great work that Ms. Palmer is doing to stay connected with students that have the skills and abilities to finish up here and graduate. But there's just sometimes a lot of things going on in students' lives that we have to be able to support students through and make sure that we're acting in line with our district goal, which is 100% of our kids graduating prepared for college and career. So Destiny, congratulations for following through and completing the requirements to get your degree. So board members would ask that for Destiny's willingness to stay committed to earning her degree, for being a great role model for her child, I would ask that we give her a standing ovation. Thank you, Destiny. So board members also, Ms. Palmer is here with us, Dr. Marker and Dr. Schuler will be speaking here in just a bit on the high school schedule. But just wanted to reinforce the great work that Ms. Palmer does every single day in her work as a graduation coach. Ms. Palmer's work is driven by data. She has a very clear understanding of what students need to make sure that we're getting every student to the point where they're a candidate for graduation. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job, and just would ask that when you get the opportunity, drop a note to Ms. Palmer if you want to take the chance. Just continues to do great work every day for kids. Thank you, Tabitha.
Thank you, Dr. Kilbride. And congratulations, Destiny. All right, moving on to our 2.02. We have our Ritenour High School virtual learning schedule.
You didn't read the upcoming date?
Oh, I didn't read that.
No, you didn't. Doesn't matter to me, but I just want to know if you wanted to. For
Well,
our
I
audience.
will. Our dates are really about our board meetings. So we have our business meeting next Thursday at 7 o'clock. It'll be back here in the lower lobby. And then we'll have our Thanksgiving holiday where we'll be out of school from November 22nd through the 27th. And then we'll have our next work session on December 3rd and our next business meeting on December 10th. There we go. Thank you. Are there any other dates? Sometimes I always forget.
It's the 25th.
25th, not
You
the
said the
22nd.
Did I say the 22nd?
You said 22nd for the holiday.
I'm so sorry. 25th through the 27th.
Right.
All right. Any other dates? We don't have a lot going on because there's no performances. That's where we usually put all those. Okay, so now we'll move on to 2.02 with our Ritenour High School virtual learning schedule.
Are those for parents that just came in?
I'm sorry, can we pause for just a second?
Sure.
Okay.
Destiny, is that your parents? Did they come to see you?
Would you care to come up and introduce them in front of the board? You all are welcome to come on up front if you don't mind.
This is one of my older sisters, and then this is her dad. He's been a great support system for me.
So, Destiny, we'd like to give you another standing ovation if it's okay with the board so that your family can see it as well. So,
How proud we are.
Thank you.
board members, so in recognition of Destiny, board members in recognition of Destiny Green being an example of our commitment to 100% of our students graduating prepared for college and career, and really is a testament to the work that Destiny has done along with the staff at Ritenour High School, including Ms. Palmer's great work. Would ask that we give Destiny a standing ovation for her willingness to not give up, to continue to graduation, and to be a great role model for her child. Congratulations. Congratulations, Destiny, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you guys for coming out and supporting Destiny through this journey for her too. Okay, now we'll go ahead and do our virtual learning schedule with the high school.
Good evening, everyone. We are here to represent the High School Virtual Learning Committee and share our committee's recommendation of a schedule for the initial transition to Phase 2 at the high school level. Our committee has been meeting since May 13th and has had participation from 33 different teachers. Since this school year has started, the students have been surveyed bi-weekly through advisory and Husky time, and we've gotten feedback from SWAT, building, and district administrators.
Upper left,
Start this.
the upper left, hit turn it on. Oh, there you go.
Our objective was to create a schedule that would be in effect November 23rd to January 15th that reflects the reality of the current virtual learning environment, that will work for students returning to the building and at the same time maintain a high quality of instruction for those still at home and learning virtually. And then also would be flexible enough to be continued to be used if our building or the district needed to return back to phase 3 while in first semester. We wanted to minimize the number of times schedules would need to be changed for students.
Good evening. This is the proposed schedule that we would like to start with, November 23rd through the remainder of first semester. And really, as Mr. Eisler was saying, this schedule would reduce a lot of changes, but make us consistent with the elementary and middle schools, in that where we would have 2 different in-person cohorts, cohort A on Monday and Wednesday, and then cohort B on Tuesday and Thursday. We would have a block schedule similar to what we're having right now, except, our A students would be Monday, Wednesday, so they would have their 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th period, and then 2nd, 4th, 6th, and advisory on Wednesday, and then Tuesday, Thursday with our cohort B. In the middle of the day, we would have a time period for lunch along with asynchronous learning for the students. And then on Friday, we would essentially be switching, that's our current Monday schedule, we would be moving that to Friday. That way all the students would have all of their classes on, and it would be a full virtual day for every student.
Good evening. So let's think about our rationale. Students will continue learning on the same daily schedule we currently follow, whether they're learning virtually or in the building. So even if cohort A student comes to the building on Mondays, on Tuesdays they will still virtually be learning. So we will still stick with the amount of time that we presently are using to teach and have instruction with kids. The students will be provided time in the middle of the day to allow for that asynchronous learning, and also provide for a safer lunch in the building. One of the largest considerations we have to consider when we do have this many students back to the building is how do we feed them and congregate them in one area safely. And so we do need that time in the middle of the day in order to do that. This proposal moves that Monday 1 to 7 schedule to Friday, in order to mirror what we already have doing, what we are doing throughout the district, and maintain the current number of hours of class time with students. So one of the important things was maintaining throughout this whole virtual learning from day 1 is that we had student feedback. This proposal builds in priorities shared by students through our own virtual learning committee surveys that we've done every 2 weeks with students in our building. Reaching as far as 300 to 200 every time we survey. We also did a restorative practice circle, not just but last Friday, asking the questions, what are some things you liked about learning virtually that would you like to see continued as they come back? And one of the things that was highlighted very often by students was that ability to have that afternoon time, not to have a break, but more so to get their thoughts together about what they learn in the morning. Be able to prioritize the homework and make sure that they understood what they needed to do, or prepare for the other 2 hours that they had for the rest of the day. And that was a continuous thing that we saw in the surveys, as well as in the restorative practice circles. So we're honoring them with breaks within the day, but also longer lunches was important to them, getting more done with their longer class periods by having that time in the middle of their day. Organization of classwork was one thing they said it allowed them to do, as well as to time to work asynchronously, independently. So I think we met the needs of the students, as well as trying to not interrupt the virtual learning that is currently working for a large majority of students. And so we are trying to meet both needs and then be able to bring them back safely. So that is our presentation for you. Do you have any questions?
I understand why you say organization of classwork online, can you just explain that a little better?
So we did have a lot of feedback about how they felt more organized, and they felt like they could organize themselves with that middle day break. So it was about their understanding about how to organize themselves and having that time in the middle of the day to stop and think about all the stuff they have just taken in, as well as organizing what do they need to do.
So is it them organizing themselves online, or is there something online that helps them organize? That's what I'm confused about.
Well, as a teacher, we've given them several different options to help them. I mean, we do that regularly, but with them, you know, we're not face to face. I've heard often that the kids have really had to take that ownership of their learning. So to hear them say they need to organize themselves during that time is actually a positive to hear that that's something important to them. So I felt very, very positive when I heard that as feedback.
Okay, thank you.
So I did have a question. Let's say I'm part of cohort A.
Yes.
And I come in the building and I have my first, third, fifth, and seventh class. And then on Tuesday, I'm virtually from home. Am I videoing into the classroom, or am I just working like on stuff that I learned on day A?
No, so we will continue as we've actually been teaching. So to consider that we did the percentages, I might only have 2 students or 3 that are coming into the building. So the onset is to continue teaching as we have, because we have a majority are at home. So we will continue with A-day students, the A cohort, coming in and having that one-on-one time with me, right, during the asynchronous time, while being able to go home on the Tuesday and be able to be a virtual learner again. But what they're receiving is that management, that motivation, that engagement. Those are the kind of things that I think the kids who we're inviting back, we're recognizing that that's what they might be missing. So we would put the onset, it's not the teaching, it's not the curriculum. So we don't need to create separate curriculum for these students. They just need a motivator. They just need a hand. And so we would also be able to prioritize with those students who definitely need us and be there with them one-on-one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're still teaching also to the kids that are virtually at home that don't need to come in?
Right, and we have talked about how it's important not to spend the entire hour and a half teaching as the teacher, right? Being the sole leader of that time. So the onus is on 25 minutes of instruction, having group time, and then having them have their own independent learning. So them coming back to the building is to help them in that independent learning time. It's not the instruction that needs to change. It's the ability to help them one-to-one. And I think that's what we're going to be able to offer them by bringing them back. The mistake we would make is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We have to look at what we're doing well. And I don't think the instruction is the problem. So let's not upset, the instruction when we have the ability to help them learn. These are learners who just need assistance. So they're coming in so we can offer them the assistance that they need.
So they come in on Monday, and if they're doing their homework on Tuesday, they can...
So the students who are in the building...
They can come in, okay, I'm on Tuesday and I'm confused, so I can go ahead and zoom into your teaching even though I haven't the day before.
Not they will, not they might, they will.
Okay.
So they will be learning on A day with us in the building, but Tuesday, they will be a virtual learner at home. So my instruction has 2 days, right? I have 2 different lessons, right? It's not this lesson for this group and then this. It is the same for both groups on depending on the day. So the whole idea of why are we bringing them back has to be the understanding of it's not the instruction, but it's the assistance. And what we can provide for them being there is the assistance that they need. Yeah. And the relationship, and the motivation, the engagement, and those are the important parts that we're trying to fit the pieces into.
So you'll have 2 lunches set up?
Yes.
So that way...
So we understand the numbers and we projected numbers. We believe that the safety level would be perfectly fine with only 2 lunches.
Okay.
If group 1 lunch, they would go to lunch, then the other group would be able to take a break or to do independent learning, or just to, like anybody else who's at home, be off that computer for a little bit. They will remain with the teacher third or fourth hour and be able to work with them on their break time in that room, as well as then we will also be directing them to the lunchroom. We will be walking with them, and we will also be assisting them back to the room. So we are deeply thinking about the safety of these students. We're thinking about the safety of our teachers. All of that is a high priority for this committee as we talk through these steps.
And we have enough time between the lunches to have our cleaning come in and clean.
So we did the math, and we did about 10 to 15 minutes. I believe that's correct. And we got to remember, we're not thinking of how many students are we talking? Because if we have only 200 to 250 a day, and then you're splitting them, you're talking only about what, 100, 125? Right. We got to reframe the thinking of how many kids are in this building compared to what it usually looks like.
Right.
So I don't think it would be that taxing, considering how we are placing them. All students will stay with the class when they're seated in the cafeteria, so that we understand for contracting or tracing purposes, that we understand where they've been and who they've been with. So all of these are considerations we are taking into account for the time. And we do understand that the amount of time between switching is also not just to move the kids, but also to allow it to clean safely. I feel like we've been living with this for a while. So throw anything at me, I gotcha. But it's good work, and it's positive work, and it makes me feel like I'm helping not only myself and my fellow teachers and all the teachers on the committee, but it's helping their students, the kids we love. And as a parent of this district, I think about my own child coming back on the 23rd. And so those are considerations as when we work with this committee that we have, as well as Mr. Weisler, the same thing. So we are very happy to serve you at any time when it comes to this committee, and we appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys today. Thank you.
Thank you guys for all the hard work that you guys put into this. I know, it didn't just come to you overnight, and you guys have put your work in behind it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. You're welcome. And we have been meeting like literally every week since May. Yeah. And so to have 30 teachers who volunteer time since May, that's a very good kind of understanding of the staff that you have here in this building and the dedication to wanting to do this well. So thank you.
And so board members, the committee is also working on the schedule for second semester. So from January 19th through the end of the year, they're looking at options for that schedule. So I took a meeting with the committee. The committee will continue to refine it. Got some good ideas around the schedule. They're looking at doing some things to allow for additional small group or individual check-ins. Looking forward to hearing more about the thinking from the committee around that next schedule. Thank you, Ms. Bannister.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Moving on to our 2.03, we have our technology competencies with Ms. Gilliam.
Everything is masked.
Your microphone's masked.
Oh, good evening, everyone. So, the tech competencies, this came about because of the shift in how we needed to instruct students. So this is just a quick update on where we are, and I actually will say this is an update on where we were, because the data on here is as of October 26th. So things have changed some since then, and I'll just kind of give you a broad picture after the fact. So of course we have our vision and our mission, and the piece of the equity statement that this connects with is the invest and engage students in their learning by supporting student and teacher efficacy, because we feel like if teachers and students have the
understanding and the belief that they can do the work and can do it well in this environment, that they will be successful, and that's what this speaks to. So we have 5 areas where we asked our teachers to show us some competency. And the first one we felt that was important was to just make sure that they could function in a virtual environment with some of those basic technologies, things like our Google platform, so Google Apps, Seesaw for the younger children, screencasting so that when they are building those asynchronous lessons or modeling things, they could do it in a virtual setting. And then we also felt like teachers who had a Google Level 1 certification, because that is a pretty intense thing that shows how well you understand the technology, that they would be able, that if they had that, they could show that they had that mastery. So we either had people show us their mastery through having that Google certification or by creating a screencast that used either the Google Apps or Seesaw to show their proficiency. And they also, that video or that screencast doubled as an introduction for parents to see what they're doing with their children. And so as of October 26th, we had 72% of our teachers who had shown us that competency, had turned in their artifact. And you'll notice that we have 467 educators listed here. And the reason for that is because some of the special school district teachers participated as well. And so that's why it's not the 422 or 23 that are actual Ritenour people. So that's the first one. The second one is building that online classroom environment to support the social emotional learning and the engagement. And so a lot of teachers work together to build those norms and those pieces that they knew were good things for our students. We also shared an article with them from ASCD. ASCD doesn't stand for anything anymore. It used to be the Association of Supervision and Curriculum or something to that effect, but they are one of the leaders in curriculum information. We also used information from the Distance Learning Playbook, and we used information from Learning Forward, which is the premier professional development organization, to put all of this together. So we had, so far as of October 26th, we had 63% of our staff who had shown or turned in this competency, I should say. And then the next one was building those lessons online. So we know that the instruction is the key factor. So we wanted to make sure that teachers could design and build their instruction in an online format that was going to be successful. And so this is where we were asking teachers to show us something, you know, that they're going to do that they may have already done, but doing it in a virtual format. We gave them the same building blocks that we've always used, which are the 5 E's, and then for the secondary teachers, the secondary instructional model. So we blended it all together with what we know about what's important in online instruction. And so 23% have turned those in at this point. And then the fourth one was going deeper with learning about a particular app or learning something about teaching in a virtual environment. And so 14% have shown that proficiency at this moment. And then the last one was then those lessons that they did for competency number 3, just reflecting on that and telling like what went well, talking with their peers about it, what they might need to shift or adjust moving forward. And so obviously if teachers haven't shown the artifact for 3, they can't show the artifact for 5. So this one is the last of those competencies at 9% that were reported as of October 26th. So we also purchased OTIS, which is an online PD platform. And you can see here that the total number of courses that teachers have completed on there is 809 courses. The largest amount, of course, being in August when we had the professional development. And then we also had a push again last week. So we had an additional, not last week, on Tuesday of this week, we had an additional 50 courses, but we've also had a few just throughout where teachers are continuing to learn through that platform. And then this last piece here shows what buildings have done some work through OTIS. So as you see, every building in the district, someone has been doing some learning, more than someone. Some people have been continuing to do some learning through that platform. And that platform has things on there for specific for blended learning, remote learning. It has things about specific apps. It will support teachers if they want to get the Google certification. It has courses on there to support that. There's a host of things that people have done on there. So as I said, this was as of October 26th. Since then, I know that I get all of the notifications as people complete things. So I know that we had, like I said, on Tuesday, we had 50 courses completed. Before that, we've had, 15 to 20 courses completed since when I made this report. And then with those other artifacts, I have gotten, notifications that those different artifacts have been coming in consistently. So the numbers are moving up. They're moving up slowly, but they're moving up. So people are still turning in evidence to show that they've completed those artifacts. We provided a support event for teachers on October the 28th if people needed support creating or sharing those artifacts. We did not have much participation at all, but it was offered. And then I also am making a folder of just exemplars, so if people are still having trouble thinking about what they should include, they'll have access to that as well. What questions do you have?
I have a question regarding, you mentioned what has been done to kind of address some of this data. The support event that was held on the 28th, but based upon some of the feedback that we're getting, I'm getting from families, are concerns about the lessons, the online lessons being built, and our data kind of supports that. So what are we doing to help staff in that way, as well as are we looking at there should be any type of mandates surrounding any of this?
Ms. Gilliam, can you repeat that too so that they can hear it on there?
So the question was about parent concern about the online instruction. Is that correct? And the question is should we have some kind of mandate in terms of supporting what the instruction online should look like?
Not so much a mandate of the support, because it sounds like that the support is there, but the expectation of, like this is a deadline and, we're expecting to see these artifacts.
So we've had deadlines and I've moved them on purpose. One reason being that teaching online, which we have discovered, of course, it's tremendous. And so having to build your online instruction is there's a different level of detail. And so, okay, we need more time to adjust to that. Then we also had conferences, so we need more time to get ready for conferences. So the deadline has been shifted. It originally was the end of September. I've moved it to the end of the semester. And that is because I want teachers to have the time to get what they need to get. I also suspect that some people think that I'm asking for more than what I'm actually asking for. But I also want people to really understand that what we're asking for is what we've always asked for in terms of the level of instruction. So that's why we specifically created our lesson plan template for online instruction with the pieces that we always use. So those building blocks of those 5 E's are the components of the secondary instructional model. And then we also added a column, Dr. Stewart added a column of like, what tools can I use? So should I use Padlet? Should I use Flipgrid? Should I use whatever the platform is, to help teachers make that shift of, if in class I normally would do a turn and talk. I can't do that here, so maybe I'm gonna do a poll on Zoom. So just helping teachers think about how to shift that instruction. And for some people, it's an easy leap. But for some people, that's a tremendous leap because that's not their natural go-to. So the learning curve for teachers has been huge. A lot of teachers are saying, I feel like a first-year teacher all over again because they're learning how to teach in a different format. So yes, I do think there should be a deadline, but I've also been very flexible about it because I think that it's a tremendous undertaking that is, it's bigger for some people than it is for others.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You want all the teachers to do all 5 of these?
Yes, but I'm asking them to work in their teams. So they can turn it in, like some teams, the kindergarten team at Marvin, in fact, theirs is an exemplar because they did the whole thing as a team. And so there are certain pieces of it that each person has to turn in, like that first component, but the other pieces, they can turn it in as a team. And that's what I've been asking. That's why they're supposed to give each other feedback. They can do all of that as a team. The 6th grade science team at Hake, they used one of their PLCs on a Zoom, and they just recorded themselves talking about something that they learned through a webinar. That was their artifact for number 4. And so I'm asking them to do it as teams because 467 times 5 is too much. So I'm asking them to do it as teams. And so a lot of the teams are starting to do that, but it's still, you know, are we doing, you know, is it this, is it that, are we doing the right thing? And so that's why we've given them exemplars. We've created a video to show exactly what everything is. I mean, they can always email me, call me, text me, send me a carrier pigeon. I don't care. I'm willing to help.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank
Ms.
you.
Gilliam, thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to have us move over to 2.04, and this is our MSBA conference report. So back in September, what day is it? We all attended online, huh?
25th.
Thank you, September 25th. We attended online classes to help with our personal learning as board members. And so I'd like to ask, and the other thing is those classes are out there and they will continue to be out there, I think, for the next year. So we're able to go out to look at any other ones, old ones, that we might have missed, or new ones, that they are still continuing to put out there. So I'd like to go around the room and ask if there's anything that you would like to share from those. And if you don't mind, I'd like to bring you the microphone. You don't have to touch it if you don't want. I'll set it down. So who'd like to go first?
I'll go first before my voice runs out.
I want to just talk about 2 points. One, I really enjoyed one of the general session speakers, Dr. Robert Redfield, that had to do with a lot of, he's from the director of the Centers for Disease Control. And I think it was interesting to hear it from an educational perspective. With me being a dentist, I had it so much from the ADA. And it was like right in line with everything that I know as a dentist. So I thought that was a wonderful experience to hear it from a different perspective or a different lens. The other one had to do with the anti-bias training, and to know that when we went through everything that we did to be able to give our equity statement, it was basically reinforcement that we did everything exactly in a wonderful way, and it just broadened my horizons even more to always challenge myself. So those were the 2 major points that I had. Who's next?
She took exactly mine too.
I know. Is there anything else you'd like to share about them?
Well, I too was impressed with the implicit bias, what schools can do, especially since we had spent the summer and spring going through that and trying to look at what we could come up with our equity statement. And the things that I wrote down were equity at the individual level, me and my classroom, and collective level, what is our organization? And of course, we would be looking at our organization, and they gave a lot of different good things, the hidden brain, study, which is where you're priming and you're told to look for certain things like, you know, people might say, oh, that kid is good or that kid is bad, and then that's priming you. And so just those kind of things, it was very good. It gave us strategies, and I took a lot of good notes. And a good point that we already know is equal is not equity, and we have to put our resources where they're needed. And then I also like what Dr. Redfield said, and I've shared that with an awful lot of people outside of the school district, which is you don't get COVID from the schools, you get it from the community, and it's brought into the schools. And so, you know, we just have to practice and do the things that we're told to do, which is the masking, the hand washing, and the social distancing. And I think as long as we keep doing that, we have a better chance of surviving this thing. I did go to one that I didn't really care for or understand. And the Region 7's session was also very good. It's where we share what's going on in our region, which is right around in here. And I think we're going to keep having those, even though normally we meet together. We're going to keep meeting virtually. And so those were my kind of things. A lot of ideas were shared from the different districts as to how they were handling this situation we find ourselves in. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. So again, I think I would be repeating what everybody had said. But again, one thing, when Robert Redfield had talked, that was great. And I always tell everybody, the one thing that I'll take away from that, and I keep trying to push towards everybody, is you just wear a mask. Just wear a mask. He said that about 10 times with the mask in this hand, this hand, this hand, this hand. He just kept talking about it. And I would also echo about the Region 7. It was really interesting when we were sitting there and you see everybody's face from all over, and to be able to hear how they were handling things and what they were doing, and just kind of learning from each other. That was a really great opportunity, so I enjoyed that. So I'd like to, do you have anything you'd like to share from?
No, board members, I just appreciated the conversation that we held together to process some of the feedback from the conference. Did get the chance to get in at the very tail end of the conference to hear Beth Davies speaking as a part of the panel. So just wanted to reinforce that, it's a testament to Ritenour teachers that we consistently have candidates who are finalists for the State Teacher of the Year, and kudos to Beth Davie for taking her platform where she is and what she's been able to accomplish to help push the Ritenour narrative and the things that we advocate for. So I was very impressed by that.
I was going to add that.
Yeah, Beth did a great job.
All four of them did.
All of them, yes, all four of the teachers of the year, they did just such a great job. And it was kind of interesting because they all had different ways that they were all going back to school. So it was kind of interesting to hear how they felt about it, themselves. So
And different backgrounds, different areas that they're from.
Yes.
So, rural.
Different areas, different backgrounds, definitely. Yeah. So I would encourage you to continue looking online in the MSBA area and looking at the past classes as well as any new ones that they put out there. And if you hear anything, find anything, attend one that you have some good information on, make sure to share those during our board member comment times. So that would be a good time to share those going forward. So like I said, they'll be out there for the next year. Okay. Moving on, we have our policy edits. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Lonis. So board members, we've got a handful of policy edits that will be coming to you next week. So I just wanted to, as has become our process, get these on your radar at the work session. We've got one policy that is a whole policy adoption. I'll speak to that at the end. The first of the edits has to do with policy BCC. Mr. Smith has that pulled up now. So BCC has to do with appointed board officials and representatives. This is dealing specifically with the board secretary and the board treasurer. The board has the ability to name their secretary and treasurer. It can be a member of the board, can also be an employee of the district. Policy is outdated. No edits have generally been made. They're of substance. The last edit was 2016 when Max Wolfram did the policy work in the district, and that edit back in policy, that edit back in 2016 to the policy just had to do with appointed board officials that are specific to MSBA. So the edit was the board secretary will forward the names of the delegate and alternate as well as their contact information, including email addresses to MSBA. So we use the MSBA service for policies. They forwarded the updated language around policy BCC, and it's specific to the board secretary and the board treasurer. So the information is included. Some of the tasks of the board secretary are obsolete. It's just not the work of the board secretary anymore. So the edit is to catch the policy up to be more specific with what the work actually is for the secretary and the treasurer. And again, it was at the encouragement of MSBA. The next edit has to do with policy GBCB, having to do with staff conduct. The majority of policy changes, when we take them to the policy committee, it's generated by work of the legislature. So we've had to update policy GBCB based on a Senate Bill, Senate Bill 1007. The language that would be added to policy GBCB is that other than commissioned law enforcement officers, school employees shall not perform strip searches as defined in state law of students, except in situations where an employee reasonably believes that a student possesses a weapon, an explosive, or a substance that poses an imminent threat of physical harm to the student or others, and a commissioned law enforcement officer is not immediately available. So at issue is the definition of a strip search. Anytime a undergarment is visible, that is defined as a strip search. So that does not mean that a student would be requested to remove articles of clothing in that regard, but in the process of a search, if an undergarment is visible, whether that be the top of an underwear band, whether it be a strap or so on, under the new definition of a strip search, that could be considered to the letter of the law, that type of search. So the purpose of this, we're not trying to change process, but rather just trying to get our policy in line with what this new definition is. So that's the edit in policy GDCB. If you have further questions around that, I'm happy to take your questions between now and next Thursday when this information would come to you. As policy edits of this kind of nature that are this legal, we bring in Robert Usted. So Robert has gone through all of these policy edits and has given them the clean bill of health that they're necessary for us to be in line with statutes. Next edit has to do with policy GDBA, having to do with support staff compensation and salary schedules. So this came through the business office to have process be in line with policy. Support staff will be paid in equal installments, 24 pay periods over the time period of the employee's work schedule, and also if there are extra duty pay, that there's a tighter time horizon for when the employee is compensated, that that extra duty pay would be compensated 2 to 4 weeks after the work was performed. So this policy recommendation came through the Chief Financial Officer and will be recommended for you next week for your approval. The final policy that will be coming to you is Policy IGAEB. It has to do with trauma-informed, developmentally appropriate sexual abuse training, which is now required in the state of Missouri. And it was a part of the omnibus bill, Bill 604, that made its way through in 2019. The language is specific to for students no younger than grade 6.
Chris, sorry.
We don't have that.
We don't have that.
I think we have that one. We never got it in our packet. You can go ahead, but we just don't have it.
Okay.
It's not listed under policy edits. It was going to be on the draft agenda as a first reading.
Yeah. So this would be a first reading. This is a policy that we don't have in place right now. The other policies we have in place, and there's just varying degrees of edits. This would be a policy that we don't have, that we're now required to have to be in line with House Bill 604 from 2019. So I'm sorry about that. I didn't give you that. Didn't give that information in advance. This also came through the MSSBA service. So 604 says we have to provide trauma-informed, developmentally appropriate sexual abuse training to students in all grades, not lower than 6th grade, by the end of the 2020-2021 school year. So specifically what this means is that the district would provide trauma-informed, developmentally appropriate training to students in grades 6 to 12. That includes, number 1, how to recognize sexual abuse. Number 2, how to report an incident of sexual abuse. Number 3, how to obtain assistance and intervention. And number 4, resources that are available for students who are impacted or affected by sexual abuse.
So recognize, report, what did you say?
Recognize, report, how to obtain assistance and intervention, and other resources that are available by those that are affected by sexual abuse. As a part of this, there's also an opt-out option that there would be an opportunity. The district would notify parents and guardians of the requirement. There would be an option for students and families to opt out of this, which we would be providing. I'll make sure that this is also in your Friday memo tomorrow. When it's a policy that we don't have in place, there's a first reading, a second reading, and approval. So this would be coming to you next Thursday only for the first reading. And that process is, it's read in open session. The board would approve the first reading of the policy. The board, this policy would come back to the board next month for second reading and approval. And if there's any questions or edits or changes, they can be made all throughout before second reading approval. Okay.
So does the policy state that it's only for 2021? Or we have to have it in place?
By the end of the 2021 school year, the district has to have a plan and have it in place.
Okay, thank you.
Those are the policy edits that would be coming to you next week.
Okay. I'll let you go ahead and talk about the agenda.
Thank you. So board members, for our meeting next week, we're scheduled to be back here in the lower lobby for our meeting. We'll be starting at 7 o'clock. We're going to have a school of the month. It's Marvin Elementary School. So Marvin is the school of the month. I don't have the details on the presentation yet, but I'm looking forward to hearing about what's going on at Marvin Elementary with Dr. Thurman and Ms. Autenreith and the staff. We'll have our set of reports. There would not be an SSD Governing Council report. I learned that from Stacy this week. So we'll have a president's report, superintendent's report, as well as an MSBA report. When we get to the business items, Ms. Hahn will deliver the instructional effectiveness report. It's the standard report that we deliver each year. It looks a little bit different this year. There's certainly some obstacles that we're dealing with. Some of the assessments were not given last year due to the pandemic. Some of the assessments have been impacted by virtual education, but looking forward to sharing some of the good data that we have that outline the opportunities that we have here in the district. Dr. Stewart will be making a presentation around the CSIP plan. So you've heard the presentations from the principals at all the different levels. So it's the building plans along with the district department plans that would be coming for your approval next week. We'll have the first reading of IGAEB, sexual health instruction, which has to do with the piece that I have just shared. There's a good amount of additional policy language in that as well. Dr. LaChance will be bringing some personnel recommendations for your consideration and approval. And then on the consent agenda, this is where the policy edits would be found. If you have questions on the policy edits, please feel free to reach out between now and next Thursday. Those edits would be coming to you in the consent agenda. We'll be seeking your approval of the Special School District Early Childhood Special Ed Agreement. That agreement, what it has to do with specifically, it's just the agreement that we allow special school district to have use of specific classroom spaces at the Early Childhood Center. It's not approving a dollar amount. It's just informing our agreement. There will be the program evaluation from the fully virtual summer school experience that we had this past summer. And then we will have a closed session personnel item for discussion with the board next week. And if it works with the board, we were planning on using the same format where the closed session, we would just hold a closed session in the art gallery so that if there are community members that come, we can just move into the art gallery. It seemed to work well last time. That's the agenda for next week.
All right, well, with that being said, that's the end of our items for today. And we actually got that done in less than an hour.